But you see, Randy, this whole business about the alienation of public lands, what are we seeking to find? Is it the principle of letting go of public land? Is it a principle? We have to be clear that if the principle is that public lands should not be leased or sold, let's be clear that this is what we want to achieve. Or is it the principle that public lands should not be sold or alienated to public officials? Let's be clear about it too. You see, because we've had an official policy, the redevelopment, and I think it applies to Kumasi as well. The redevelopment plan, which came into being in 1999, thereabouts, where the policy was that you looked at many of these areas, the so-called prime areas, and you find 1 acre, and then there's a 3-bedroom so-called bungalow sitting in the middle of the 1 acre.
And a boys' quarters.
With a boys' quarters, 40 meters, yes. So the servants can be. And these were bungalows that were built in the colonial period. And I understand those days when the white people came and they were looking for land from Osu and so on. They were told to go there and they were going there. The people found it so funny. They were going into the forest. You know. But today, those areas that used to be forest and given out to them, they do 2 acres, 1 acre. Now they are the prime areas. The city has now, they've become the central areas of the city. So the thinking was that, why are you going to have 1 acre in cantonments, in Rage, Laboni and so on, and there's a 3-bedroom sitting on it, dilapidated 3-bedroom, so dilapidated boys' quarters. It's not the best use of the land 100 years after the land was first given out. So we need to re-engineer.
And most importantly, the public service keeps growing.
The public service
and the need for accommodation keeps rising. Yes.
So the thinking was that this 1 acre with maybe some public servants and can be redeveloped and can accommodate 40 families. And these are in the middle of the city, you know. So that was the thinking. And nobody has any problem with that thinking. You can't, but you know, the one thing that bothers me is that we should be careful that we don't let all of it go. There has to be some that has to be preserved for.
But Nana, help me with this. I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that the redevelopment plan really was that when this, like 1 acre with a 3-room bungalow and all that are demolished, what's going to happen is that because the state perhaps didn't have the resources to commit to building these things, maybe the private developer comes in and then builds, let's say, 6 townhouses or 4 townhouses on the 1 acre, takes 3 and gives 1 townhouse to the state, or builds 6, gives 2 townhouses to the state, and then also uses the other 4 to, deal with the investments and all that, return on investment and all that. I thought that was the plan. Or maybe build a block of apartments so that you can have a lot more families of public servants go in there and then utilize the other part for private purposes in order to get back their investments and of course some return on investments. I thought that was the idea.
Well, it's a combination.
Okay.
If I remember. Okay. It's a combination of that. Okay. Yeah. But like I'm saying, we should, because there's still a lot of these lands with the bungalows. We shouldn't.
They keep finishing. These days, when in this area, I can't count more than 3.
We need to have some of them. We can, in some place, they call them listed. Listed means they've been preserved for historical purposes. You know, so another 50 years, our grandchildren will come and see how that architecture was. So that is something that a caveat that we must look at. But like I'm saying, it's a combination. The redevelopment was also in pursuit of a public policy. When you go to, I understand they call it Cantonment City. That's why they call it Cantonment City.
Is it the one by the police?
Yes.
Yes.
The one by the Cantonment's police.
Yes.
That is a combination.
Yes.
So the private developer is given parts of the land, and they've put up all of these modern offices and residential facilities. And they've also put up modern facilities for the Cantonment's police.
Yes.
So you see all of these modern facilities for the police there. And as part of the public policy, they also get some of the land, and they're putting up all of these buildings. So that's an example of where there's a combination. But even when the government gets the money, the government can also use the money to put up facilities for the public service in other places. So it's all... Now, this policy has been in place. And since it has been in place, we have seen many of these lands in some of these areas being given out to private developers. And we've seen the high-rise condominiums, townhouses, and that's because some of them townhouses, condominiums. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Which is a good use of prime land, instead of just leaving them empty and so on. So the policy has been in place. Many of the land has been given out to private developers for public purposes. If you look at Airport City, it's the same principle, where the land has been given out to private developers according to a certain spatial plan, put up buildings of a certain type, high rises, to make use of that land. And it's been going on, and I understand there's a second phase and so on. And many of them are private individuals who have to build according to the criteria. So that is the principle. Is that principle wrong? If that principle is wrong, let's see how we can be clear about that. Number two, is it that the land, the public land, should not be given to public officials? If that is also the case, let's be clear in our minds, because there have been some acquisitions by public officials.
I think Sami is championing a bill which seeks to bar public officials from acquiring.
Sami, is your bill to stop or to prohibit the sale of public land, or is it to prohibit the sale to politically exposed persons? You know, so because you have, I remember some of the specific instances that you gave, the Parks and Gardens headquarters, for example, that the minister said that it was leased out in 2016. I'm happy that it's become an issue, and because that area, the ecology of that area, I will be sad if all that ecology is brought down and I see high-rise buildings. So I'm happy that it's been looked at again. But it was sold out or leased out in 2015. Some of the other places that you mentioned, the Judicial Service, I don't know the place, but I understand it's at 5th Sector. It was also opened up by the minister, given in 2015. But if you did the record, I am sure you would see a lot of politically exposed persons across board. CPP, NPP, NDC, also acquiring some of this. And there was also, as part of the redevelopment, there was something they called infilling.
Yes.
Infilling was where the 1 acre, they carve it into 4. So these are one plot that you can put up a condominium, and those ones were given out to individuals, some of whom may be politicians, some of whom may not be politicians. But let's get the list from 1999, because that's...
So you support the position that we should at least start off from the Accra redevelopment?
Yes.
1999.
Yes, because that's an official policy.
Yes.
So
Accra and Kumasi redevelopment.
Let's start from 1999. See the acquisitions. see if the public purposes of the acquisitions have been met. And then we can take it up from there. What is the preponderance of public officials? Did they get it through infilling? Did they get it at the correct values? What was the process? Was the process transparent and accountable? Were the values fair? The monies have been paid and receipted and so on. And then the ones that went to private individuals who are putting up these condominiums and townhouses, what was the process? Was fair price paid? Was the process fair, transparent, and all of that? So let's get a list.
Now, is it not pretty obvious when we drive or walk around these areas that what we actually see is a transfer from public ownership to private commercial interest? What we see. Yeah, so we knew these areas before. Now we go through those areas. What do we see?
Yeah.
It's a complete...
No, but what we see... No, but I'm saying for the purposes of public policy, you have 1 acre sitting at a ridge with 40 trees and a bungalow in the middle. The public policy is that that land cannot remain like that.
Yes.
That prime 1 acre land cannot have a 3-bedroom bungalow.
Yes.
So let's give it out to a developer who will put up a facility for, say, 40 families.
What I wanted to find out was that's why I asked my earlier question, was the intent of the policy to oust the occupation in those areas by public officials? Was that the policy? Because I thought that the policy was that there is an underutilization of the land.
Ideally.
So utilizing the land.
Ideally, the policy should also have an aim to increase public facilities. It should be there.
Yes.
And I know it's a combination. And I gave you the example of Cantonment City, and I'm sure there are many others. But, like I'm saying, a review would allow us to see if the purposes of public policy have been achieved. Yes. But the principle is that the land use has to change. It has to change because these are prime lands, and having a 3 bungalow sitting there is not a proper use of that land. So change them and have it change into a high occupancy area, high net, because the value of the land and the building on it total mismatch and so on. And then also the people who are politically exposed, who are they across regimes, across parties? What process did they use to acquire them? Were the prices fair and so on? So
as for that one, we have the answer.
Which one?
About fair pricing. We have the answer.
What is the answer?
The answer is a big fat no.
Well, but let's get the data. Let's get the data, and then if it's a big fat no, we will then know what to do.
Right.